Just to have a little bit of a disclaimer before we get started, Shell, obviously a publicly traded company, so any of the information that I share with you here today shouldn't be used to make any stock purchasing or stock selling decisions. A quick introduction from myself. My name is Sachin, and I've been with Shell for the last 5 years. I work as part of our business development team at a part of Shell called SBRS. It's also known as Shell Business Recharge Solutions, and it sits under our Shell Recharge umbrella, very much focused on the heavy-duty segment, so electrifying the heavy-duty segment. And through SBRS, we've been involved in the electrification of the heavy-duty space for about 10 years, all through our own charging infrastructure and hardware that we manufacture ourselves, purpose-built for heavy-duty vehicles. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Shell, hopefully most of you are, but if you aren't, then we are a large multinational energy company. And if you are familiar with Shell, perhaps you've been to one of these before. Now this is what we call the Shell forecourt. And if you've been to a forecourt before, likelihood is you were perhaps in your own personal vehicle as an individual consumer. And we obviously noticed over the last few years that consumer habits are changing in this space, where customers in the past were previously using petrol and diesel, they're now shifting their habits towards electrification and their own private electric vehicles. And so we've fitted most of our sites across the UK, and we continue to do so, with electric vehicle charging infrastructure through our Shell Recharge brand. Now, separate to this, we also have a very large B2B business where we supply customers with what we call the Shell card. And the Shell card is a way to enable those customers and their fleets to move effectively, and the mobility of those fleets. And of course, in this space, we're also starting to see quite a big change. So fleets are, particularly in the LCV space, moving quite in line with passenger cars, where we see a quick transition towards electrification, and we're enabling that again through what we can do at our forecourts. But fleets come in all different shapes and sizes, and we also support customers who have heavier duty fleets. And the picture for the heavy duty segment looks slightly different. So where we've been in the last 10 years or so working a lot with bus customers, and we see within the bus space that this transition is well along on its way, and what's happening in the depot locations, etc. We're now starting over the last couple of years to see growth within the truck space as well. For example, in the last year or so, we opened up our first megawatt charging site in Amsterdam. We also opened, which Matt shared earlier, Markham Moor, which is our first exclusive EHCV charging hub in the UK. And the intention is to continue to roll this out. And we have countless conversations with our customers and our partners about doing so. But what we do notice, and we have to be brutally honest, I think there's a bit of a running theme today, that it's happening slower than we expected. And we've had conversations this morning about why that is. I think, again, Matt shared a little bit about the range of the vehicles only now getting to that 500 kilometer mark, and hopefully we're going to see further developments in that space going forwards. But also the biggest question is around the economics of the scenarios here, and customers want to be able to invest in this in an economically viable way. So there are two things that we see need to happen in order for us to accelerate this transition. And the first is around being able to prove that TCO parity is indeed possible today with what we have available to us. So we're working with customers around those conversations, and I'll share a little bit later on some exciting news we have in that space as well. And the other side of that is taking what we have in terms of segregated depot infrastructure and segregated public infrastructure and bringing that together to create an integrated network between these two sides. And we're talking about, of course, shared infrastructure and what we can do in that space. So we asked ourselves the question, as Shell and SBRS, how can we leverage what we have to help build out this integrated network? So within SBRS, we obviously have years of turnkey delivery and experience in our own hardware and infrastructure. And then on the Shell side, we have a strong brand. We have 60 years of experience in transactions with truck customers. We have access to loads of truck stops across the UK and Europe. And of course, we are an MSP as well. So we are able to use and leverage our Shell network and our access to hundreds of customers in the truck space. And so we wanted to bring all of this together with the Shell card at the heart of what we're doing. The Shell card is obviously a payment method, but can also be used as a fleet management tool. And we can pull together the expertise from SBRS in depot electrification, or relationships with various fleet owners and using other third-party sites. So if you were to go to a third-party partner site, charge with your Shell cards. And of course, as a payment method, you can then have the site owner reimbursed for any electricity that the vehicle uses at that site. Using our wide network of roaming partners, so we continue to grow our partnership base with the Shell cards, where you can charge at third-party sites owned by other CPOs. And of course, as an MSP, it then enables you to use public charging infrastructure at Shell Recharge, but semi-public locations as well going forwards. Now, take you on a little journey, if I will. Let's say, for example, you're a driver, and you're based at the red depot in the top left-hand side, and it's an electric depot, optimized using solar on your roof, etc., and you've installed your own charging infrastructure. You own a Shell card, and you're on your way to the blue depot, which is a partner site where perhaps you're going to either deliver a load or pick up a load. When you get to that site, you notice that your charge is slightly reduced, and you'd like a top-up. And conveniently, your partner over there has a charger that they're happy to lend out to one of their existing hauliers. And so you use that charger over there with the Shell cards, and the owner of that site is reimbursed for any electricity that you've used there. Now, on your way out of that depot, you have a wide range of options as you complete your next journey in terms of where you'd like to go next. So perhaps there's another depot nearby that has access to semi-public, so they have a segregated area where you could charge your vehicle, and it's open to the public, advertised on the Shell app, and you notice that as you're driving on your way home, or back to base rather. Of course, you could stop at any one of our partner sites in the roaming network, and of course the option of a Shell Recharge site, which we continue to build out as part of our network development. Now, I actually have some very exciting news to share today on the semi-public front. We're in the process now with one of our customers in Belgium of really putting this out in the open and working it out in practice. So Remitrans are a Belgian logistics company. They are very keen on the energy transition. They understand the need for electrification, and like many of you in the room today, are exploring the possibility of electric trucks. So as they were going through the business case and trying to put together the case to purchase these 4 electric trucks along with all the associated infrastructure, like I'm sure many in the room would understand, they were struggling to make the numbers work. They couldn't find a way for this to be financially viable. We've talked about the margins that exist in this space, and in some cases you just can't find a way to have everything stack up and it still makes sense financially. And so, as a customer of ours, we obviously had conversations with them around how we could support them in this journey, and we brought up the opportunity of semi-public. They're fortunate in the sense that their site had a public access point that was separate to the rest of the depot, and I think when we talk about semi-public, that is an important aspect, because you don't just want necessarily anyone from the public coming and charging in your own facility, unless you obviously know that haulier. And so what they decided in the end, they wanted 4 charge points for their 4 vehicles. We decided to put 2 opportunity chargers, high power at 400 kilowatts, at a separate public access point, and 2 overnight chargers at 180 kilowatts at a private location on their depot site, which enabled them to basically cover whatever charging they need for their own vehicles. But of course, the vehicles are out doing their duties during most of the day, and those charge points, the 2 that are out in the public, were not being utilized. The other advantage that this customer had is that they actually had solar on their roof already. So for daylight hours, they were actually receiving very cheap electricity. And what we were able to do then is, while we can, 1, publicize the charge points on our Shell app, and then it becomes publicly known to the network, we can also drive traffic to that site using our existing customer base. As I mentioned earlier, we work with a number of fleets all across Europe, and so we can notify them that there is an opportunity to charge at this location, and they can, of course, take advantage of any existing discounts they have with us on that Shell card at these sites as well. So putting that all together, including a few conservative estimates that we put forward for the customer, we were able to come up with a business case that allowed the customer to effectively repay any investment that they were going to put into the charging infrastructure in a matter of years. So it is financially possible, and I think the big thing around this is that we're trying to prove that from a total cost of ownership point of view, we can today already, with things that are in place, get to a point where this is on parity with what exists in the diesel world. So what do we as SBRS actually do in this space? And we are very proud to say that we are a full end-to-end integrated turnkey solution provider for fleets. In the kind of beginning, or the first step, is we have our own in-house solution design and engineering team. So very much from the first phase, we are working towards your requirements, helping you to understand, one, your operation, any operational challenges, but also the size and the shape of your dynamic in your depot location. This includes things like on-the-go charging and how we can integrate that into your operation and really help you plan out what this looks like for your fleet. When we've kind of agreed on those things, I mentioned earlier, the very next step is to look at the charging infrastructure. And we had, I think someone mentioned it earlier, there's a lot that goes on in this space with passenger car chargers being used for heavy-duty vehicles. When we talk about our charging hardware, like I said, it's over a decade of experience in this space, purpose-built for heavy-duty vehicles to put high power output for a sustained period of time to ensure that these heavy-duty vehicles and their large batteries are charged in an efficient way, and you're really getting what you expect out of them. We as Shell are also an energy supplier or a utility company in the UK, and we support all customers with 100% renewable green electricity as well, which we can integrate into energy storage systems, on-site solar generation, and the like. And in addition to this, obviously, we complete all the installation and construction works at your site too. And finally, once the actual project is complete and everything comes together, we support all customers with maintenance activities as well, and provide them with charge point management software to enable them to monitor their charge points and their vehicles. So just pulling it all back in together one last time. I think what we discussed, and we're seeing more and more of, as kind of people speak today, there's a lot of silo that exists between the depot, and we talk about the depot independently, and then we talk about public infrastructure independently. What we're trying to put forward here is that, especially in the interim where we're quite at an infant stage in the development of charging infrastructure, we need to look at these things together and simultaneously, and we're in a unique position to be able to do that. So what we really want to do, and with your help, is to create a real integrated EV charging network that's purpose-built for heavy-duty fleets. And we heard about collaboration earlier today. I'm hoping we'll have some great collaborative discussions going forward, and it's very much about industry coming together and working towards solving this problem. So I'll stop there. If there are any questions now, or happy to speak at our stall later today. Thank you.